Good morning again, guys. Now we are going to have learn short class, and in this time we are going to review a topic that we saw the last week. And I asked you something last week. Why does someone write? When a person writes a book, an encyclopedia, a magazine, a cartoon, what is the reason for that person to write? So why does someone write? And let's review with a pie. What's the author's purpose? When we talk about the reason for someone to write, we are talking about the author's purpose or the reason that person has for writing. So what's the author's purpose? It's as easy as a pie. Do you like pies, guys? Here you have a pie. And with a pie, P-I-E, you can remember the 4 reasons for an author to write. An author might write to persuade, or inform, or entertain, or express feelings or ideas. So which one are the author's purpose? Pie, persuade, inform, entertain, or express. So remember, when we talk about author's purpose, we talk about the reasons that the author has, and it can be to persuade if the author is trying to convince you to do something or to buy something or to change your opinion about something. To inform if the author is giving you information about a topic. To entertain if the author is trying you to have fun when you are reading. To express if the author wants to express his or herself. So, the author's purpose or the author's reason can be to persuade if someone is trying to convince you about something, to inform if the author is trying to give you information about a topic, to entertain if the author is writing for you to have fun when you are reading, or to express if the author is writing to express his or her feelings. Okay, last week you had to solve this PDF, and some of you didn't do it, about the author's purpose. You had to read each one of these and you had to decide if it was to persuade, to inform, or to entertain. So we are going to see some examples. We are not going to read them all. For example, number 1, it says, erosion is the process of materials moving from their source to another location through weathering. There are several types of erosion, but the most common types are erosion by wind, water, and ice. So in here, the author was trying to inform. The author's purpose was to inform you about what erosion is. It was not trying to entertain you. Are you going to have fun reading about erosion? Or was him trying to convince you about something? To persuade you? No, right? So it was to inform. He was giving you information about erosion. Let's see, for example, this one. Students should be assigned a computer to use throughout the school year. Among many reasons, studies show that students who attend schools have a one-to-one computer policy do better academically. So, in here, guys, the author's purpose was trying to persuade. Why? Because the author's purpose was to convince maybe teachers or administrators or maybe parents to buy a computer for each student, because it says students should, this is the clue word, students should be assigned a computer. Not always you are going to have this word to persuade, but when someone is trying you to do something, that person is trying to persuade you. So in here, the author is trying that every student has or have a computer. Let's see here, the last one. The other examples, we are not going to read them. One warm afternoon, while walking home from school, Rosie glanced at her neighbor's house and noticed Mrs. Spencer lifting a fluffy kitten from a cardboard box. The words "free kittens" were written across the side of the box in large black letters. Rosie squealed with excitement and ran home to tell her parents. This is like a little short story. So in this case, the author's purpose is to entertain you. Because when you read stories, short stories, or tales, you have fun reading because it's a story, something that you are going to enjoy. So this one was entertain. It was not giving you information. It is not what it was not trying you to convince you about something. So it was trying to entertain you. Okay. So now, guys, I want you to open your book, Learning Destination, in page 190. Learning Destination, page 190. And in there you are going to underline what is the author's purpose. The author's purpose is the reason or reasons the author has for writing. Okay? So, the author's purpose can be to persuade, to inform, to entertain, or to express. Okay, so when I ask you guys what is the author's purpose, I am not asking for the definition. This one is the definition. The author's purpose is the reason why someone writes. That is the definition. But when I ask you identify the author's purpose, I am asking you if the passage is trying to persuade you, if the reading is trying to inform you, or to entertain you, or the author was trying to express himself or herself. Okay? So now we are going to read the following passage, and then we are going to look at this timeline that is in here. And after that, we are going to answer the sentence, the questions that we have in here. So let's read. The Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. was an important leader of the civil rights movement. In 1948, at the age of 19, King became a minister. During his lifetime, he organized many civil rights protests, including the Montgomery bus boycott and the Freedom March on Washington, D.C. Because of his frequent participation in civil rights protests, he was arrested 30 times. King received the Nobel Peace Prize for his work. Dr. King is truly a hero of freedom in America. So, This reading was talking about Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. It was a black man in the United States, and he was fighting against slavery. So he was fighting for the rights of black people. So this reading was talking about the life and some important events in the life of Martin Luther King Jr. So here you have a timeline with the years and the events of the life of Martin Luther King. For example, in 1948, King becomes a minister or like a pastor. In 1955, he organized some protests, and one of them was the Montgomery bus boycott. He went to the street with people to protest. In 1963, he was in a march on Washington. March, not a month, a march, marching, okay, in a protest. In 1964, King wins the Nobel Peace Prize, el Premio Nobel de la Paz. He won that prize. So number 1 says, for what purpose did the author write this passage? What was the reason? The person who wrote this, what was the reason? He was trying to persuade the author, was trying to inform you, was trying to entertain you, or the author was trying to express his or himself or herself. Which one of these 4 goes in here in number 1? The reading was trying to persuade you, to inform you, to entertain you, or to express. So it was trying to inform you about what? About the life of this man, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Okay, so the reason was, or the purpose was, to inform about the life of Martin Luther King. Number 2, how do you think the timeline, this one is a timeline, support the author's purpose or help the author's purpose? Do you think that this timeline, it's good for you to have information about Martin Luther King? Or do you think this timeline is helping the author's purpose, that is to inform you? Yes, right, because you can see the years, the dates, and the events in the life of Martin Luther King. So, how does this timeline is helping the purpose of the author? It shows the important events in Martin Luther King's life. By showing the events, the important events in Martin Luther King's life, the author or the timeline is helping the author purpose, that is to inform you about the life of him, of this person, Luther King Jr. Number 3, how many years passed between Dr. King becoming a minister? Looking here. Here he became a minister in 1948. And the March of Washington. When was the March of Washington? In 1963. So how many years passed from this year to this? How many years? Math. You have to apply mathematics in here. So tell me if it was 24, 14, 25, 30 years. So count them. Count how many years do you have from 1948 to 1963. And that is the answer in here. And number 4, What happened first? The Montgomery bus boycott or the Freedom March on Washington? Look at the timeline. What happened first? The Montgomery boycott or the March on Washington? So answering here, because number 3 and number 4 is homework for you. As easy as that. I already helped you with number 1 and 2, so you have only to do number 3 and 4. Okay, so remember to send me the picture early because I need to check it and to return it back to you. Remember, guys, count your blessings. Don't count the negative things on your life. Count your blessings. Have a nice day. Yo terminé este también, Tito.